The shopping mall 2.0. Online shopping has led to the closure of hundreds of malls across the country in recent years. But my next guest says it's all just a part of the new retail experience. Joining us right now to talk about it is Marcus & Millichap CEO Hessam Nadji. Hessam, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be here, Maria.
So it's true, the mall of today has changed quite a bit. Tell us about that. You say the new retail experience is less about inventory, more about square foot for interaction. What do you mean?
It used to be all about merchandising. Now it's about experience. Now it's about entertainment. Now it's about convenience. So the retailers that have really struggled the most have failed to reinvent themselves. They basically stuck with a certain merchandising strategy that didn't go beyond just a product. And they also failed to bring in value. Value retail has done extremely well, and convenience retail has done extremely well. But the old-fashioned malls that didn't really adjust to all of this, and it's beyond e-commerce. E-commerce certainly is a big force, but it's not the only force. It's really the consumer habits that have changed over the years, and that's what's bringing the change.
Okay, because I was going to say, oh, well, look at Amazon, you know, eating everybody's lunch, creating, you know, warehouses just to hold product, not necessarily stores. That's just part of it, though, is what you're saying.
It is just a part of it. And ironically, as old-fashioned retail struggles against e-commerce, a lot of tech companies like Amazon are opening stores like Microsoft, like Apple, and they're expanding their brick-and-mortar retail. Why is that? Because they're able to bring in customers.
Which stores do you think are changing with the times and sort of getting ahead of this trend and doing it well?
A great example is Nordstrom. If you look at the components of sales for Nordstrom, for one, if you will, highlight, the value component, the Nordstrom Rack component, is doing great. Anything that has a discount or value flavor to it, like outlet malls, for example, have done well. So Nordstrom's online and e-commerce segment and value segment are doing much better than the traditional store. That's one example.
How would you characterize commercial real estate right now in general? I know that the president's tax plan is one of the critical issues for commercial real estate, isn't it?
It really is. And I would say the economy is in some ways in a wait-and-see mode right now. If you take a look at the enthusiasm for the president's overall growth orientation, it's been off the charts. The sentiment is way up, both business and consumer sentiment. But if you look at the first quarter results in consumer spending, it was very weak. GDP was very weak because people are waiting to see what the details of the tax plan are, what the details of infrastructure spending are. And that's really shown up in the commercial real estate sentiment as well. A lot of investors, mostly private investors and institutions, are waiting to see what all this means. Fundamentals are great, occupancies are very strong, rent growth is very strong, but sales have slowed pretty dramatically in anticipation of what all the details are.
So as a commercial real estate executive yourself, what do you want to see out of this tax plan? What's most important? What are you waiting for?
Job growth. We need job growth. And the president has been so outspoken about saving specific companies, saving specific industries. I think that's great, but it's got to go beyond that. It's got to go far beyond the actual, you know, pockets of markets where we've seen a struggling job environment, and a broader way to sustain this expansion cycle.
And you think lower taxes will lead to more jobs?
I think it can be a big part of it. I think infrastructure spending would be just as important because we need to spur the kind of long-term investment that brings in jobs, not just for 1 or 2 years, but beyond, you know, the short-term horizon.
And in terms of the deductions, we're talking about doing away with carried interest, doing away with a number of the deductions that many in your industry use all the time.
Right.
What do you think the impact there would be?
That's the biggest concern, because if we, on the surface, benefit from lower tax rates, but lose some of these benefits, like the 1031 exchange, for example. The 1031 exchange allows an investor to defer gains, taxes on gains, by investing in a like-kind property. That spurs a lot of activity and creates a lot of tax revenue for local municipalities. If that's removed or reduced substantially, it's going to burden a lot of the local municipalities, both in terms of the immediate effect on taxes and the slower rate of exchanges and transactions.
So, but you still think this is a jobs creator, even though these deductions are going away?
Well, I'm not sure if the deductions are going away. That's the key.
Okay.
And that's where the uncertainty comes in. Because one time you hear that they may be going away, another time you hear that they may not be going away. Overall, if these key deductions are not affected and the tax rate is lowered and there is some infrastructure spending to follow or along with it, those are extremely positive. for the markets. But at the end of the day, Maria, it's about supply and demand. And the supply-demand side of commercial real estate is in extremely good shape. The question is, with deregulation, maybe some easing on the banks, can we get some more construction activity going? Because in a lot of metros, we're now short on supply, believe it or not. And that's going to play into the market.
Is obviously critical there. Hessam, great to get your insights this morning.
Great to see you, Maria.
Thank you so much, Hessam Nadji, joining us.